What is up, everybody? This is Crap It Gamer, and I'm going to talk as much as I can about my experiences with Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I bought the game, excuse me, before the launch, so I waited for the pre-order and everything. Excuse me. Got the game, played it that first day, and then from there on, experienced it firsthand. And I made the assumption it would be somewhat Borderlands-ish, Borderlands 2, I guess, in particular, because that's the one I played. But I had that kind of vibe. Maybe a little rage was involved in it in terms of its influences. But I wasn't sure in particular how the game would play. I started out a little unsure how it was going to go, because the game utilizes, and I was right on that regard, the Borderlands leveling up system, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey utilizes this, and a lot of games over the years have utilized that, where if you don't level up to a certain enemy's level, then they can kick the shit out of you. I don't like those kind of games. I actually hate those kind of games. That's what made Red Dead Redemption 2 so amazing, is you could literally use the damn gun you're given and headshot any single character that you run across. That's awesome. Just make the weapons. The thing is with Red Dead Redemption, the more powerful weapons allowed you to either one-hit kill or near one-hit kill people that you hit in the chest. But every single character would die by getting hit in the face, unless for some reason they were... No, I don't think that was the case in Red Dead Redemption 2. But that would work here, where if they're wearing a certain helmet or they're wearing certain armor, then you hit them in a certain place. I would have preferred that. Instead, it's the same goddamn concept that you get different weapons that are worth something from a value standpoint, and Fallout and Skyrim and all those games do that to an extent, but it just feels more. It doesn't feel more. What's the word? It doesn't hold you back as much. Like, I get weapons and I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I got this, and then you run around, especially because it's a certain weapon that I want, and then you're running around, and then all of a sudden your weapon becomes obsolete. Like, everything becomes obsolete. Clothing in particular drove me nuts, because I would get this awesome clothing. I'm like, yeah, I want to keep this thing, and all of a sudden, a armored vest, a bulletproof armored vest, is worth less than a tank top. That makes no sense. A pair of aramid weaved pants all of a sudden are not worth as much as basketball shorts. And then, certain kinds of like, I've had helmets, protective helmets that are worth less than a ball cap. Come on. Weapons, to an extent, are the same way. Like, I've had pistols worth more than sniper rifles, and it's like, what? So, I don't like that system of I don't like that combat system of leveling up. I would prefer to get certain weapons that are worth something more down the line, and you have to work towards them. I guess in some ways, Red Dead Redemption it works that way because they only have a specific amount of guns. A dozen and a half, maybe 2 dozen weapons. Whereas some games, especially first-person games, they're like, oh yeah, we want to give you a whole bunch of weapons. And I get that because it's so beautiful to see a gun from a first-person perspective. Now, you could do that with Red Dead Redemption as well. I don't think I've ever really played Red Dead Redemption 2 in first-person. It's slightly disorienting, but I also like to see how badass Arthur looks. My Arthur looks when I'm playing. But I don't like that. I don't like that leveling up thing. You run into that situation. I ran into that situation a lot with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you'll think you're like the hot shit, and then you'll accidentally go over into another district. And I think to an extent Assassin's Creed Odyssey wasn't that bad, but in Cyberpunk, sometimes you don't really know what district is actually going to be kind of like off limits, and all of a sudden you're trying to do a mission because the game just throws out the missions when you get near certain areas. When you trigger a certain spot, then they'll offer like gigs or whatever, and there are some gigs that you cannot do early on in the game, but they'll give it to you anyways. And if you don't know, then you'll go and you'll try to do it, and then you get your ass handed to you, and that sucks. And that's really annoying to have to go over and over again. So that's one of my first big major issues when it comes to Cyberpunk. Another one in particular that a lot of people are dealing with are crashes. Now, I played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. And there's a lot of crashes with that game. In some ways, the crashes with the Fallout series are a little more random. I almost know the game is going to crash with Cyberpunk. And I don't know if that's worse or better. Because I can kind of anticipate my anger and just say, okay, hey, it's going to happen. But then in some ways I'm also like, you're fucking kidding me. I'm there at this point and this and this. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because you get to a certain point and you can't even save. Because then the game kind of like is freaking out. And it's like, oh, this action is blocked. And then shit hits the fan. So that kind of sucks. I on average, I'll play the game 5 or 6 hours. I'm lucky enough to be able, I guess, or unlucky depending. I'm employed, so, but I play 4 to 5 hours at minimum, and I'll get 2 crashes. That's not necessarily terrible, but there is no rhyme or reason to when it crashes. So, you end up, my main thing is save when you can. Especially when it's important. Luckily, you don't have to go very far back when you do crap out, for the most part. Sometimes you go back a little ways. But if you go through a certain area and you finished it, just save it. Just for now, until they fix it, just take care of business from that standpoint. Outside of those ones, the next big thing is the glitches that go on, and a lot of the glitches for me are kind of like they'll peek at you a little bit, but I don't know. The drop in frame rate and some of the characters are kind of not glitched out, but they're pixelized. Some of the guys, in particular, I think his name is Emmerich or Emerson. He's the bouncer at the Afterlife. A lot of times you'll run into him and he's like digitized. He hasn't like fully loaded up, and he kind of has that like Metal Gear Solid era pixelated face. I don't care. I know who he is. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't impact me. I just run right by his ass and then do my own thing. And then you'll see things like cigarettes are kind of just floating around, weapons are floating around, Mac stocks, all kinds of stuff are floating around. Who cares? Just let it go. The other big things is a lot of times certain events don't trigger. That's a little bit more annoying because occasionally you run into things where certain events don't trigger to do the next part of the mission or the quest and whatnot, and that's kind of annoying. But for the most part, all of these glitches people were in, I get it. They made a big stink and they fucked up. I hope down the line they fix it, because I personally think this game was actually a blast. I love a lot of the characters. Helps that they also got some pretty amazing voice actors and actresses. I know Oda, and then a number of other characters, is done by, talking about Red Dead Redemption, is done by, and I apologize, I should look him up, but I'm going to look him up. But he is done by the voice actor that does Charles from Red Dead Redemption. Help if I could type that in, right? There we go. Oh shit, I have it. Nope, I don't want that. Noshir Dalal. Noshir Dalal. Nice. Anyways, Noshir Dalal. As far as I know, does Oda, because fuck, it sounds like him. But I know he does a number of characters in the game as well. But I think one of the things that I like is not a lot of well-known characters are not used for the voice actors and actresses. So you're not like sitting there going, "Oh yeah, I know who did these characters." Voices are for those characters. So it's hard to explain. It's the same thing when I watch a movie and it doesn't have a lot of well-known actors and actresses, because you're like, oh well, it's that a good actor and actress, it doesn't matter. You'll still eventually forget it's Robert De Niro or it's like, I don't know, Angelina Jolie, wherever. You eventually forget, and then you buy into that their character. Here, not hearing that voice, because the thing is you start to associate voices with certain people. Now, Mr. Dalal actually does a great job, because he does a couple other characters that he mimics or tries to create a certain accent, which is, I think, is pretty cool. I don't know how great he does the Japanese one, but I'm okay with it. As a Japanese person, I'm okay with it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, fuck you, did it wrong." But I'm okay with it. This game in particular did Japanese accents interestingly from a number of people. And then your two main characters, like the female V, actually, I think, pronounced a lot of the Japanese names and words way better than the male one, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. I think from not counting all the glitches, not counting all the issues that are going on, I really enjoyed the game. So much so that I've beaten it. Technically, I've beaten it 5 or 6 times, something like that. And I'm working on the female V route. For me, there's so many characters, and some of the characters, their world is so tight, but I like that you see the small bubble here that you learn, and then there's a small bubble here that you learn. But then there's other characters that you can build off of, and then there's other characters. The big thing for me is, there was never really very many characters that you developed this hatred that you kept working and working towards. You worked on this idea that Yorinobu is this big deal, or Saburo, the Arasaka family is this big deal. But there was no build up. That was one of the big things for me. Is I really wanted someone to hate so damn badly that when you finally killed them, you were like, ugh. And you never, I never got that in the game. At last minute, there was a couple people that you would, kind of hate. But I think they could have worked on that a bit. Little nitpicky things too on top of everything else. Every time you got a weapon that you had never gotten before, you didn't necessarily always get it in the info thing, and I love reading that stuff. It was so stupidly random when you got to learn about a weapon, and a lot of times you wouldn't even get to read about the weapon, period. The vehicles were already out there, which was pretty cool. I wish the whole spectrum, was out there. That way you could just read about everything, and then that way when you got it, you're like, oh fuck, I got this and this and this, and they didn't do that. And then, like I said, there was other super, super nitpicky things, but for the most part, I really enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077. I think there's a couple things that if they do a extension or DLC or whatever, I would love them to do. I would love them to let you visit that moon station, because I'm pretty certain, at least from when I played, you can't actually physically go to, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a moon casino, or not a moon casino, but it's a space station casino. I would love to be able to go to there. I would love to go to Chiba 11, which is where one of the characters you meet is from, out in Japan. That would be pretty dope. Like to live his life and then work his way up. That would be a really dope DLC content that I would be definitely interested in. But I enjoyed it. Where does it stand? Did it fit the hype? In a lot of ways it did. I'm not going to count a lot of the glitches and everything that's going on. I've coded one time in my life a rock, paper, scissors game that I was helped with greatly, and that was a pain in the ass. To do what they try to do is pretty amazing, and all the glitches and stuff that's going on. Now, they're a professional company. They're making a hell of a lot of money. They should have anticipated this and made sure they got the kinks out. Absolutely. But taking that aside, I really enjoyed a large portion of the story in the game. I love the characters in the game. The weapons are pretty awesome. The environment is beautiful. There's great, grandiose views that you can experience and take in, which I really enjoyed. I was expecting that with this game. yeah, it has its flaws, and I think they understand that, and everyone understands that. But as a whole, I thought it was worth the money to me. I enjoy it. I'm still playing it now. There's replay value in it, which is amazing, and yeah, I think it's a you there you can take your sweet time with that game and really appreciate it fully. Watch Dogs 2 was, and I guess Watch Dogs 1 to an extent was like that. Like those kind of, because it's really similar in a lot of ways. You know, like I said, it's very Watch Dogs meets Borderlands. I mean, that's literally the best way to describe it. And both of those games allow you the time to kind of do your thing. You could spend, I mean, I don't think I've ever finished all the gigs. So you could spend your time finishing gig after gig after gig and build yourself up. My thing is I don't like that leveling up system. But a lot of people do. So, yeah. But anyways, that's my very disconjointed and all over the place review on Cyberpunk 2077. Did it? I guess that's the big question. Did it meet the hype? It met the hype for me. It didn't meet the hype for a lot of people, as you can read about. But for me, it met the hype. I thought it was great. I would be excited if they made any DLC. I would really highly think about it, depending on what the DLC is. And, yeah, that's my thought on that. Anyways, the Crap 8 Gamer. We will see you all next time. Until then, be safe and be well. Bye.